A lot of psychologists have a really great impact on their local communities, and I think that's something to be really excited for in terms of the impact that you can do not just clinically but also in your community at the same time. What is up, fam? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Phil Sarpon. This is Phil's Guide to PsyD. This channel is dedicated to all things clinical psychology, wellness, and graduate school. Today, the question that we're going to go through is clinical psychology a good career? Now, I did do a previous video that was pretty short that did a little bit of an overview on whether or not clinical psychology is a good career. I thought that I would do another video going a little bit more into the nitty-gritty and the specific details about clinical psychology, giving you guys 10 pros and 10 cons to help you decide whether or not clinical psychology is going to be the right career for you and if you should go into this field. Now, in general, as a clinical psychologist, you have the potential to make way more money as a master's level therapist, and you also have the freedom to work in a number of different settings more than a master's level therapist. And so the first pro in terms of being able to make more goes into the second pro, which means that you can work in a variety of different settings, whether it's from research to teaching to clinical work to a number of different things. I've never heard of a clinical psychologist not having a job. In terms of finding a job and keeping a job, if you're doing good work and you're doing what you're supposed to do, it should not be hard to maintain your job for a very long time. The nice thing, the third pro about being a clinical psychologist, is that you're probably going to have a lot of flexibility. A lot of the clinical psychologists that I've shadowed and talked to have a wide array of different things that they do throughout the week, whether it's teaching, whether it's research, whether it's clinical work, whether it's supervision, whether it's consulting. I mean, there's so many variations and things that they do on a week-to-week basis that are really unique. It could even be speaking at a conference or getting ready for a research presentation or helping a student with some of their research or dissertation work. There's a lot of different things that clinical psychologists can do. And so in terms of being bored, I don't think I've even heard of a clinical psychologist ever saying that they were bored of the work. Maybe that they were emotionally burnt out, but in terms of being bored, I have not heard that yet. The fourth pro, which I think is really great, is that you get to contribute to helping people with their lives, psychology, mentally, emotionally, and all of that is really respectful work in terms of what you get to do in terms of being able to help someone through their journey. The fifth pro, which I kind of already mentioned previously, is that you're not going to get bored. There's always going to be things that you can do. I've heard of psychologists, going through a private practice for a number of years and then going to university and then going into a hospital. And then, they became a consultant and then they worked for a government agency. And what you'll find is that there's actually a lot of clinical psychologists that work in various different positions that may not actually even be specifically focused on psychology at all. And so the amount of variance and variation that you can do as a clinical psychologist, I think, is endless in terms of the options that might be potentially available. The other thing about being a clinical psychologist is that you're going to have a lot of great autonomy, especially if you decide to go into private practice or even if you're working in a community health setting. There's not really someone telling you what to do. It's just that you are seeing patients day in and day out and making your schedule as you go along. So there's not really anybody to turn in anything to unless you are maybe in an academic medical setting and you have other psychologists that supervise or look over you. So I think that's the nice thing about having the autonomy of a psychologist, is that you kind of, in some ways, are your own boss in terms of trying to, especially in a private practice, making your own schedule, doing your own thing, and making the profession into what you want to make it. The seventh pro is that you're going to be in high demand. Again, like I mentioned before, I've never heard of a psychologist looking for a job and not finding it. There are always going to be plenty of job options available for you. That is not slowing down even as more people become psychologists. The greater mental health needs in general of the society and locally and nationally are so great and are increasing every single day that it's not going to be hard to find a job, and you're always going to be in demand in terms of whatever setting that you go into. Number 8 is that you're going to be going on a potentially really prestigious career. Even though you have put in so much time into your bachelor's degree and maybe potentially into your master's degree and also into your doctorate degree and into your internship and into your postdoc, is going to make you a really respectful expert in what you do. Like, people will listen to you when you talk about mental health related things because you are at the highest level when it comes to mental health and psychoeducation. And that's a really, really big deal in terms of you might be able to actually contribute a lot locally to your communities, whether to your educational system, your school system, whether it's to different board meetings, whether it's to different town hall meetings, whatever it is. A lot of psychologists have a really great impact on their local communities, and I think that's something to be really excited for in terms of the impact that you can do, not just clinically, but also in your community at the same time. The ninth thing that I kind of already mentioned, but is specifically you can be your own boss. And I think what's great about that is that in being a clinical psychologist and starting your own private practice, there are a lot of clinical psychologists that started one private practice and then they started another one and then they started another one and they started another one. And that could be potentially a whole different career in itself, where maybe you're not even doing anything clinical therapy wise, but you're just managing your practices. And that could be really fun if that's something that you might be really into, in terms of maybe you've gotten really burnt out with clinical work and now you really just want to work on the management side of things or the consulting side of things or whatever it is. And so being your own boss might be something that could be really appealing for you in terms of making your own schedule, making your own hours, and figuring out how you want to basically maneuver or navigate your life to where you want your goals to be. The last thing, which I think is really cool, is that as a clinical psychologist, you could potentially change the course of the field. There are so many psychologists that have made books, that have done workshops, that have done trainings. You think about a lot of therapists or psychologists that have created things like EMDR, which is really, really popular, right? And where did that start? That started from someone who was clinically focused in wanting to help people, right? And so you could potentially create a whole new intervention base to help people with their depression or anxiety. You might discover something in your research that could be really, really beneficial. You might get a whole lot of money, grant money, that you can contribute into finding what things work best for what different conditions. And so you could really contribute to the field in a meaningful way, not in a way where it's all about you, but in a way that really, really helps people. And so that's something to really take notice of and to hopefully be excited about, and the potential that you can have in contributing to this profession. All right, guys, so the bottom line is that there are tons of pros and there are also tons of cons. Make sure, if you can, to really weigh out those pros and cons. Talk to a psychologist, ask different questions, shadow a psychologist if you can, ask the school questions if you need to, find mentors, find advisors, but be really informed about the decision that you may be potentially taking for yourself in the future. If you guys have any questions about anything that I mentioned, put it down in the comment section below. I'll be sure to take a look at that. But with that, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel and to this video. Hopefully, I will see you guys in the next video.